What's up? Welcome back to Nowstalgia. Dave here with a review of Saltburn, the new film from Emerald Fennell, starring Barry Keoghan, Jacob Elordi, Rosamund Pike, and others. Fennell's second film following Promising Young Woman, her debut, which was a rapturous success for her. Best Picture nomination, Best Director nomination, a win for Best Original Screenplay. Raucous hit, back in 2020. And now we're back with the follow-up. And Fennell, interesting, new director at this point, actor turned director. And Saltburn certainly of a piece with Promising Young Woman, where it's very flashy and stylish and has lots of ideas and has inconsistent ways of resolving some of those ideas. But to me, Saltburn, which I will eventually spoil in this, I like Saltburn. I thought it was a really good time, really fun, and certainly entertaining. It is not dull by any means. This film, set in the 2000s, starring Barry Keoghan as Oliver, who is newly attending Oxford, and he encounters Felix, played by Jacob Elordi, whereas Oliver, or Ollie is, from a broken family, not super successful, but he's on Oxford on scholarship. Whereas Felix is very much old money, comes from wealth, and people know that about him. And this connection that they end up developing kind of by chance, kind of out of pity on Felix's part, eventually leads them to leave school. I believe it's on holiday, and they go to Felix's family estate named Saltburn, which is this very opulent old English castle in the countryside, and it was filmed at specifically Drayton House in the UK, which is a kind of obscure country castle manor that has not been filmed at before. So it's a really stunning setting and place to be in and spend the majority of the movie in. Really cool that was kind of what they set out to do, is pick a new location for this in terms of just a random old rich house. Pretty sick. I think it's really effective. And this film, as we get to meet the rest of the ensemble, Rosamund Pike as Felix's mother, Elsbeth, completely bonkers character, very much of a piece the way Rosamund Pike has played people in, like Gone Girl and I Care a Lot. It's a great piece of casting to have Pike in this role, someone who basically introduces herself to Ollie by saying she's allergic to ugliness, or however she puts it. It was really funny. And in general, I think the movie is funny, it's provocative, it's shocking at times, and I saw it in a really full audience and lots of audible gasps and shocks, and laughs as well. There's stuff that's certainly played for laughs and ridiculous things that's very over the top that you enjoy. And Pike, some of her lines are certainly part of that. Her husband's played by Richard E. Grant, who's pretty funny as well. And then you have Felix's siblings, one of which is played by Alison Oliver, Venetia, and then his half-brother Farley, played by Archie Mandekwe. And yeah, I think from there it's interesting because it's kind of like a movie about obsession, but also relationships and being a creep. And obviously there's an overall class parable about it, because Oliver is very much not from the type of upbringing that all these people he's spending all this time with, and yet he starts to kind of engender himself into the family despite all the weirdness and the things they do, and just tons of hijinks begin to ensue. And I think what's interesting about how the movie is structured is you don't really know, I think, what the ensuing conflict is. Me going in where I hadn't really watched even the trailer. I was just waiting for the other shoe to drop, and I was expecting, and spoilers to come, I was expecting the other shoe to drop would be involving Felix and his family. They scheme to bring someone to the home, bring Oliver to the home, when they had grand plans for him, assumingly nefarious plans. I was expecting that to be the angle it went down, but you're never quite sure if that's where it's leading. You just expect something to happen as your viewer. And it actually turns out it's kind of the opposite, where in a grand twist at the end, it's revealed that Oliver was in fact plotting to take down this family and basically steal their wealth. And it's quite the flip as you revisit some scenes we saw in the movie. And that was and I think that's kind of one of the more polarizing aspects of Saltburn is how effective you find the ending, because a lot of the movie isn't super concerned about like that kind of like plot progression of Ali taking the family wealth and taking everybody down and everything. Um, I guess to some you could maybe say it's unearned or it's rushed. To me, it wasn't not the most interesting part of the movie. I think everything earlier is much more interesting. In general, I think the first half does a really good job of maintaining your attention and your inquisitiveness as a viewer, like what's going to happen. And a big part of that is I think the chemistry and the on-screen relationship between Keoghan and Elordi. Keoghan, I think everyone knows at this point, of course, coming off an Oscar nom last year with Banshees of Inisherin, Keoghan has, I think, a really like neurotic presence to him that's quite unique, and he does a great job in the lead role here. And Elordi, man, it's Elordi season, man. He's awesome in Priscilla as Elvis. He's awesome in Saltburn as well, in a very different role. He's certainly proved that he'll have a very long career post Euphoria. That much is clear. And there's definitely a hue of homoeroticism throughout the whole movie. You're never quite sure exactly what Ollie's sexuality is, and he definitely plays things across the spectrum when it serves his needs throughout this film. Um, and like his, is he in love with Felix? Is he obsessed with Felix? What is his desire to remain close to Felix? Why is that? Obviously, the last minute ending, you start to understand it, but like watching the movie, you're trying to figure out like what is Ollie's thing, what's it about. Like we understand that Felix is someone who likes to cast aside people when he's no longer interested in them, and Ollie doesn't come from a place where you can have that much privilege in how you act and stuff like that. But in general, the relationship is pretty interesting to parse. Man, there's just so much like wowing moments. I'm not going to spoil what they mean, but just like if you've seen the movie, you would know there's stuff with the bath water. There's stuff, with a hookup outside under the moonlight. There's stuff regarding a burial plot in the dirt. There's a lot of wow moments. People laugh, people gasp, people are shocked. Um, it's pretty wild. I like the ending birthday party set piece, just with all the extras, the all the lighting and everything. Of course, you have Chekhov's hedge maze at the Saltburn estate, which is going to impact the story eventually. For as soon as you see it, it's pretty funny. Archie Mandekwe as Farley, pretty cool performance as well. Someone who, because he is mixed race, he feels like he's not fully accepted as part of this high elite society, this high elite class, and you can tell that weighs on him and how he acts. Interesting, like side character, maybe not fully developed, but I think Madekwe's performance certainly made a mark, and how Keoghan played off him as well, I thought was cool. At the very end, you have just an absolutely spectacular needle drop. In general, there's a lot of needle drops, a lot of 2000s needle drops, like Elordi and Keoghan briefly are singing Mr. Brightside when they're driving. We hear some MGMT outside at Saltburn, but the ending needle drop, which is the extended one take involving Keoghan dancing, is to Murder on the Dance Floor by Sophie Ellis-Bextor, and that is, to me, it's just kind of like an instant classic needle drop moment. And on top of that, I think, or part of the reason why, is because Keoghan is completely nude. Like, you see a ton of Barry Keoghan dick in this movie. It's kind of hilarious. And it's certainly an unforgettable movie for many reasons, and that is one of them. So despite some buzz at a Telluride when this premiered, I'm not expecting this to be an Oscar contender, certainly not to the degree that Promising Young Woman was. Promising Young Woman certainly benefited from a smaller Oscar field due to COVID, but I think Saltburn, there's polarizing aspects to it. I think people would criticize the crassness and the nudity and things like that, or people could criticize whether all the themes are really wrapped up in a nice bow at the end. There's holes to pick in the movie. To me, I just had such a good time with it, and I really appreciated the style, and I thought all the performances and the casting was so well done that I can ignore some of those flaws, but I do think those flaws will kind of hurt the film when it comes to award season. But at the end of the day, I think it proves or continues, what we've already thought about people like Elordi and Keoghan and Rosamund Pike and Emerald Fennell, certainly has things she can improve on as a filmmaker. I think through two movies, probably the way she ends her movies and tries to conclude the meaning of her films. That's probably the most consistent criticism of her through 2 films. But clearly, she's a stylist. She's a provocateur. She has interesting things on her mind. So she's the type of filmmaker that we would like to have, and hopefully she continue to get better and deliver more intriguing stuff. Because I was certainly intrigued by Saltburn almost the whole time. I could tell the audience I was with was certainly feeling it, and even if there are things that maybe take you for a loop for a second, you're at least always paying attention. So yeah, I think there's a lot to recommend about Saltburn, and it's certainly a movie that people need to have make their own opinion about, because there will be things you like and things you didn't like. But let me know once you've seen it, which again, Saltburn doesn't actually come out for a few more days. Let me know, how'd you feel about Saltburn? What was your favorite? What was your least favorite part? There's a lot to it. Let me know. And for more movie reviews, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.